Welcome to this video. So you have said that help. I am struggling with my daily tasks and juggling them is very difficult. And I really know this because I have been through it myself. So I know how difficult it can be, especially if you are working in a highly pressured work environment, or where a lot more than you have envisaged is required of you. I remember in my first year as an associate, working in a big four firm, I did not expect the amount of work that I will be required to do, to be fair. Nobody had prepared me for that insane level of work that I had to do. Maybe in my mind, I think in my mind I thought, oh, I'm with a big firm now, everything is just going to be rosy, it's going to be, I don't know who told me that. But anyways, it was not what I envisaged. So as you can imagine, I struggled. I was like, why do I have to work late? Why do I have to work those hours? Why do I have to do this? So it was a lot of questioning myself and a lot of not just enjoying the whole process because my mind was not made up. It was just all over the place, and it was pretty much a lot of things were delegated to me to do. So I really did not enjoy that first year. But as I continue to grow in my career, that really changed for me. And I'm going to share with you a couple of tips that works for me perfectly. And I'm going to share those with you. And I hope it works for you as well. Okay. So in my line of work, the work is really a lot. And if you cannot manage yourself, it's so hard to thrive in the type of work that I do. If you don't know how to manage yourself, you will just not be able to sort of survive there. So you need to find a way to manage yourself. There will be systems and sort of structures in place to help you thrive depending on where you're working, but you also need to self manage, and that is the purpose of this video. Now, the first thing I'm going to say to you is this: you'll be responsible for a lot of things that are scattered all over the place, a lot of things that are all over the place, especially again, like I said, if you're in a highly pressured work environment, you'll be responsible for a lot of things all over the place. Now, even right from coming out of a meeting, there may be like 5, 6 action points for you. That if you do not put pen to paper, you're going to lose focus, and you're not going to remember. And the next time someone is asking you, maybe a week down the line, 2 days, one day, and you're like, oof, that's true, you said that. Okay, so that's why you need to put pen to paper, or you need something that I call the radar. The radar is basically just on anything that you like, a long list of everything you're responsible for, and that list is a rolling list. It doesn't stand in a place, it continues to move. Something as little as putting a meeting in someone's calendar is something that should be on your list of tasks to do, especially things that if you don't do it, it's so obvious that you didn't do it because it is within your responsibility to do. So you want to really have a think about having that long list. My preference is I use a Google Sheet for my radar. So everything I'm responsible for is always open. Every single thing I'm responsible for is on that list. So having that, obviously, if you're responsible for 2 different projects, 3 different projects, 4 different projects, you can have a list per project, or you can have just one tab on your Google Sheets, but I had like where you can sort of just cross things out with the multiple projects that you're responsible for. However, you want to keep it. Sometimes I use OneNote, but I use OneNote for my like daily tasks rather than the full long list of things that I'm responsible for. So you must have that radar. Radar is basically everything that you should have on your radar. Pretty much that's where the name is going out from. So having that list is able you are now able to pretty much determine which items are like will require more time, more energy from you, which ones are very mundane, very easy to do, very quick. If you don't have a long list, you will not be able to do that separation, so you need that long list. Another thing that I do that I really would encourage everyone to do is, obviously, that long list is a list of things you may be responsible for the next maybe 2 3 months. But out of there, you pick your daily tasks for the day, and more things will fall onto your laps that you can then put in your daily tasks. So I use the calendar to manage my day to day activities. I think that just the calendar alone, if you can max out the importance and the use of a calendar, you would have won in managing yourself. Now, this is the only way using a calendar works. You must time block per hour or every 30 minutes, depending on what you want to do. You must time block. So when you resume to work, don't just start working. What are you doing per hour? Between 10 and 11 a.m., exactly what it is that you will be getting on with. That is what should be on your calendar. It doesn't matter whether it's so your calendar is not only for meetings, it's for the things you want to do, pretty much. So you must time block. Now, the only way this works is if you do what you say you will do and you put it on your calendar. If you're not ready to do it, don't put it on your calendar, else this is not going to work. So a lot of people put things on their calendar they do not want to do, or they do not think they will be able to do. This is what there is a psychological effect of that. You don't trust yourself to do the things on your calendar, so you are not taking your calendar sacred. So you don't do that. If it's on your calendar, do it. You will be ruthlessly productive if you do the things that you put on your calendar to do. Obviously, people can drag you away to do other stuff. If you see that you may be dragged away to do other stuff, don't put them on your calendar. And you must be put reasonable things on your calendar. I mean, if you think that you have a deadline, for instance, on a particular day, you know that day the deadline is the biggest thing you need to do. Every single thing you need to do days prior to that should be on your calendar and should be prioritized so that you can meet that deadline, right? So you don't want to just load one day. You resume to work on Monday, you want to load the work for 10 days in Monday. It's not going to work. Okay, so be reasonable in putting things on your calendar. I want you to ruthlessly prioritize. It's very, very important. All tasks are not equal. Even though there are many, they are not equal. So you want to see the ones that are very important for you to do right away. Those are the ones that you should. And then don't do too many important things in one day. There is the power of incremental efforts on your project. Don't do everything that is important in one day. I know you want to see your project thrive and you want to succeed in your projects and your tasks and all of that, but you don't have to be successful on every single thing today. So what will you do tomorrow? Identify your very high impact tasks. This is how I define it. What are those tasks that I add the biggest value to? So if I do it, I add the highest value to that task compared to if anybody else on my team does it. And the tasks that had the biggest value to me, which basically means probably I don't really know how to do that piece of work. If I didn't do it, I would learn it. So if it checks those two boxes, that is your high impact task that you should be getting on with. I will just add the third one. Whatever is the biggest worries of your bosses should also be your high impact value tasks. That's it. Those guys, you should then at least check out one per day minimum. Throughout the course of the week, there is no way you will not be happy with your self-managing if you do that. Okay. I do not need to talk too much about delegation, do I? Because I know you know that already. But a couple of things about delegation is this. If you delegate, the only way you can be happy with the end result is if you roll up your sleeves. Fact. A lot of people think when they delegate, it means that someone else does it, they don't need to worry. If you must be successful at anything you do, you must retain the highest responsibility for every single work that crosses your table. That is the fact. So don't give your work to somebody else and then you don't check in on them, you don't tell them what to do, you don't tell them what the end results that you want to see looks like. And then when they return it, that piece of work is now going to get done by you during a very, very highly pressured time, because you were not there to supervise or you were not there to give the needed guidance. That's the only thing I'm going to say about delegation. Anyways, there's one more thing I want to say about delegation. Delegate properly. If you think someone does not have the right skill to do a piece of work, do not give them that piece of work to do. Now, if you notice, I said skill. I didn't say potential skill. So some people have very high potential to do whatever it is you want them to do. So people that show that level of potential, by all means keep developing. But if you know that someone, there's no way, in fact, it will take times two of the time you would have spent doing it yourself to get through that piece of that, then it is not efficient to delegate it. And that is the fact. So think about those two things I've said about delegation and put them into practice. Another thing I'm going to say to you is this: batch similar tasks. I want you to batch similar tasks. So if a task looks the same, batch them. So for instance, you want to attend meetings, you can do the first 4-5 hours of your day to be meetings. You can control that pretty much, especially if you are beginning to get to that like senior member of your team. You can start sort of what's it called? You can start controlling that. You do not want a situation where you have a meeting, you then need to do deep work, then you have a meeting, then you do deep work. You're just going to be sort of messed up. You can say you can also, it doesn't have to be like daily. There are some days that can be for meetings, back to back meetings. That's fine. There are some days during the course of the week that you basically take your calendar and say, please do not book any meetings. I do it every time. There are some hours during the day I basically write it there: do not book meetings with me. And people see it and they respect it. It depends on your organization. People, as long as you've blocked out that time and you've put there, you're very clear what you're doing during that time period. Any sensible professional should know that that time does not work for you. So block out your time. Make sure that if you're having meetings, have them towards like the same time, except you do not have control over that sort of meeting. And then use the rest of the day or the start of the day for very deep work to get through your bits and pieces. Okay? Another thing I'm going to say to you is this: say no, but be smart. No's do not usually pan out well, especially if you're still a very junior member of your team. Saying no may not pan out well, so you need to be smart about it. If you want to learn a lot, no is not the vocabulary that you need. If you want to learn a lot in a short space of time, no is not really your thing. But always discuss your priorities with the people who are assigning things for you. If there is a task that you've never done before, the first thing you're not saying to the person giving you that task that I've never done this before, so I can't do it. I've had people say that to me, literally, like, I've not done it before and I don't think I want to do it. Again, it depends on what you want, right? So if you want to learn a lot, you can absorb more things, you want to become valuable quite quickly, you have to say a lot of yes. But at the same time, you have to say no, because you're not going to break your back. And how do you say no? You take all the things you've got on your plate, you discuss it from time to time, so that anybody that is adding anything more to your plate can then look at it and say, okay, you cannot reasonably deliver this, to be fair. And then they will say, okay, you focus on A, B, C, D, E, and then we can move on. So I would say decline, but it depends on your level, because I also don't want you to have issues at work, because you're working with people and sometimes their ego may be bruised if you say no to them. So you need to be very smart, because I want you to thrive at work. So I'm not just going to say you should say no to people. I'm going to say be smart about it. Okay. Another thing I'm going to say to you is there is always a better way to do what you're doing right now. Always think about it. There is always a better way to do exactly what you're doing right now. So you want to think about technology tools that are available for you to use. You want to think about the process from start to finish of doing your work. You want to say, okay, what aspect of this work that I'm doing, what aspect of this work do I not need to do? You want to think really about that. What aspect of the work that I'm doing now do I not need to do? So you want to streamline the whole process. You can't keep doing the same thing month in, month out, and you're not thinking automation. You're not thinking, okay, how can I automate this process such that I don't need to do exactly this thing? You're picking numbers manually, or you're doing things I shouldn't be doing. You can think of scraping tools. You think of data snippets. You can think of using different tools out there that you could be using for the purpose of your work. If your organization, if you see tools that you think will be helpful for your work, you can pitch it to your bosses to do subscriptions for those tools for you to use. But you need to come up with those ideas and let them know how much time it will save and save your organization, produce better results, produce better insights, and the rest. So you want to think about all of those. Okay, I'm just going to basically go back on time boxing and putting time on your calendar. Okay, you need to be able to reasonably estimate how long a task will take, and you should not be lying to yourself. Okay, if a task is going to take you 2 full days to get through, 2 full days is like 8 hours times two, that's 16 hours to get through. How long do you need to for that task to get ready, to be reviewed, right, by whoever needs to review and approve it? So you want to start thinking about it maybe 3 weeks in advance, so you can do it 1 hour per day, you can do it 1 hour 30 minutes per day, whatever that looks like for you. Whenever you're estimating the time to deliver a task, also put in mind the time to approve it as well. It is very important, because you may be thinking, oh, if the deadline is maybe the 10th of the month, it will take you 8 days to get it done, 2 days to get it reviewed. You should be starting the time that you should be thinking about for the whole start to finish should include the approver's time as well. So don't give someone a piece of task that will take them a full day to review or a full day to be comfortable around it. Don't give to them just hours before the deadline. Okay, so you want to think about that. You also want to think about taking breaks, because especially when you're doing a piece of task that is very heavy, very very heavy piece of task, very technical, you're not going to get it resolved by sitting down there for hours on end. Okay, so you need to learn to take breaks, go for walks, whatever works for you. Go to the gym. Like for instance, this morning I just had to take a long walk. It's not a particular day that I'll go to the gym in the morning, but I felt a bit off from the start of the day. So I'm like, no, I'm just going to go for a walk before I come back. So when I came back, I felt slightly better. Before I then started working. So you may also want to think about taking breaks, even in the middle of take your lunch breaks, especially take your lunch breaks, get up from your desk, take a walk around, come back. Whatever rest means for you, please do it. Maybe just, having some chats with friends, going for proper lunch, going, instead of just getting coffee within the building, go outside of your building to get coffee or tea, come back, whatever that means for you. Okay. Now, one of the things that also helps with managing your time properly is how you communicate your updates about the work. So a lot of people get stressed about work because they don't know how to communicate where they are, and they have no idea how to take their leaders along on their work. So I'll give you a sense of what I mean. Now, every piece of project, you should know from start to finish everything that is expected to be done, not by just you, but by everybody that needs to get that project done, right? You need to know everything. Now, on every single thing, you should have an update. So if a project is going to require sub-project A, sub-project B, sub-project C, or task A, task B, task C, what are the sub-items under those tasks that needs to be done, and who needs to check them out? You need to know, and that needs to be communicated as often as possible. Often can be twice a day, often can be once a day, often can be 2 days in a week, whatever that means. You need to know, and you need to be able to communicate it properly. The benefit of communicating the update of your work is this: the people you're telling feel more confident that you're on top of what's going on. It does not mean that there are no issues. It just means that they can trust that if anything comes up, if you can't meet the deadline, if there are delays, you'll be able to communicate it, and they do not need to worry about things being hidden from them. Okay, in that same manner, it's just normal for people to sort of withdraw a bit and let you do your thing, because they trust that you'll communicate if you need help. But if your communication isn't great, then you begin to get micromanaged. And that can be very tiring if you have leaders who micromanage you, because you already have too much on your plate. You're probably working with different people. If one particular person is then drawing you, checking in with you every 5 minutes, you're unable to deliver your other bits and pieces, and you don't even feel happy yourself doing those things. So it's really, really, really important that you take note, especially of how you communicate the things you're doing. And look, you could also be in a situation where someone just, you did not plan to go into that meeting, someone just sees you probably on the floor and just says, oh, what's going on with that project, like you did not think they were going to ask you, but you must always have like an eye level overview of where you are with your project. You must always have it, so you could just stop to ask yourself, where am I with this, where's this project going? And usually when people stop you to ask you a question like that, they are worried about something, or and they would have told you probably some meetings before, and you want to always be on top of the big matters. So when you are then stopped like that abruptly, you are just telling them the progress you have made on that big issue. Do you understand what I've just said? So I will wind back a bit. Every project has one area of it that is tricky, that worries your bosses. Okay, probably one or two areas. When they stop you, at any point, you must always have an update on those areas. So when they stop you, and they ask you, "Oh, by the way, what's going on with this project? Where are we?" That tricky part is where you want to focus. They don't care about the smaller ones that you can handle. That tricky part is the one that you want to focus on. The other thing I'm going to talk to you about is follow up. You must be you must be an effective follow up professional. You must follow up with people, else people are going to make you struggle, especially if delivering a piece of work requires the input of other people. It requires collaboration from other people. You must follow up. You must sort of check in with them, say, how is it going? Are you able to meet the deadline that I've set for you? You must think broadly about everything you need so that you can then push that off to them and keep following up with them. You must keep following up with them. And if possible, make sure that you have your bosses in the loop just in case anything goes down. You don't want to be saying things, your word against theirs. When you follow up with people, don't feel like you can't follow up with them. You can follow up with them. You can follow up with all the stakeholders. What I see a lot of people shy away from is, I don't want to copy their boss, because if I copy their boss, it looks like I'm reporting them. No, it's work. Okay. And it depends on how you also, from get-go, when you're chatting to people, chat with them with their boss, like chat with them with their boss, like they need, because you do not want to be put in a situation where things are not being delivered. People respond quickly when their boss is that's the fact. People don't like it, but that's the fact, because their boss is there. There is this extra push. They have to respond to you quite quickly. So and then, if it depends on how you also come through. If you're not arrogant or rude, you're just generally warm and nice to people, and just say, I'm just checking in, do you think we'll still be able to meet this deadline, all of that. You don't come through to people as though you're giving them query or you're responsible for them, or those sort of deal. So, but please make sure that all the stakeholders are involved in the email. Don't feel like you can't send in an email to people. Please do send emails and copy all the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Who will be interested in seeing this mail that I'm sending? That's the right question you should be answering. And those are the people that you should be sending your emails to. Okay? So pretty much that's it. Obviously there are some times when you don't feel 100% at work, and you just sort of, you don't feel like working too much, or you're just down physically, you're not up there and all of that. Or there are times when you're there but your brain does not look like it can process technical things. This is what I do. I have a list of things at every point in time that are very quick and easy things to do, like putting time in someone's calendar, looking through a draft report. Some things that may not be really technical, but I can do quite easily, quite quickly. So I spend my time doing those, especially on days when I don't feel like 100%. I must always have tasks that I can do even when I am not feeling 100%. So you don't want a situation where you're just there, you don't even know what can I do, even though I don't want to do anything super technical now. There should be those mundane things you can easily tick off while you're trying to get your mojo back, pretty much. I think those are my key tips on how to manage yourself and getting through deadlines and managing a lot of tasks on your plate. I hope this is super helpful for you. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.